I'd like to welcome you to the TAE Study Period 3 online tutorial. It's the 26th of May 2016. My name is Michelle Christie. I'm the Program Manager for Vocational Education and Training, and I manage the TAE course. Today we're going to be looking at how to tackle Study Period 3. There's over time I've kind of looked at the way that Study Period 3 is structured and kind of come up with a way to actually make Study Period 3 streamlined for students. And the suggestion I'm making tonight has helped a lot of students out. So I thought I'd make a tutorial about it so that we can talk about it. Once I finish my presentation, I'll open up the floor and you can ask me any question you like about Study Period 3, whether it be about designing an assessment plan or creating an assessment instrument, designing an assessment tool, or even talk about validation. Okay, so Study Period 3 actually contains 3 units of competency. One is TAE ASS 401B, which is Plan Assessment Activities and Processes. We have TAE ASS 502B, which is Design and Develop Assessment Tools, and TAE ASS 403B, Participate in Assessment Validation. There's actually 8 assessments that need to be completed in this study period, and it might seem like a lot when you look at it at first, but with a really careful strategy, you can actually complete this study period quite easily. So the way it's actually broken up is, Plan Assessment Activities and Processes, so TAE ASS 401B has 2 assessments. We've got 30066C/01 and 02. The Design and Develop Assessment Tools, which is TAE ASS 502B, has 3 assessments. We have 30067/01/02 and /03. And we also have TAE ASS 403B, Participate in Validation, and it has 3 assessments as well, which is 31472/01/02 and 03. Now, students kind of say to me, how do I tackle this study period? There's 8 assessments. And what I'm going to suggest is to wiggle the study period around a bit. And I'd suggest the following approach. So the third unit in this study period is Participate in Validation, which is 31472. So I'd suggest you read that workbook first. From there, complete the written assessment, which is 31472/01, and then register for some upcoming scheduled validations. Now, we run regular validation meetings online for students, and so that's something that you can easily register for and participate at a later stage. From there, once you've registered for the sessions and potentially undertaken them, although depending on how far in advance you need to wait, the next port of call is to look at 30066A workbook, and that relates to the Plan Assessment Activities and Processes. And then work on the first assessment, which is 30066C/01 for Plan Assessment Activities and Processes. From there, I'd suggest to read the workbook for 30067A, which is about designing and developing assessment tools, and then work on 30067/01, which is Design and Develop Assessment Tools Portfolio 1. From there, go back into Plan Assessment Activities and do the second assessment, so 30066C/02, and then work on Design Assessment Tools again, 30067/02, and then end off with 30067/03. Okay, so step 1 is about reading the validation workbook. So this is the third unit, as I mentioned, in the study period. So from there, complete the first assessment, which is 31472/01, and that's a written Q&A asking you questions about validation. Pardon me, won't be a sec. And then from there, you can register for some upcoming scheduled validation meetings. So there's actually two assessments. One is 31472/02 and also 31472/03. And as I said, we conduct regular guided online validations every month that you can participate in. Some students think they have to do 31472/02, so the first validation meeting, before they do the second one. It's actually incorrect. Register for whatever suits you. You can do the third one before you do the second one. That's all fine. Completely up to you. They're very separate sessions. They're looking at completely different things. They're different meetings. So whatever you can get into first, go for it, and then go for the other one. So have a read of the workbook. The validation meeting itself, it actually requires you to participate in a validation meeting. And what you can actually do is click on the link, and the link is actually in study period 3. And you have a look on the right-hand side of the screen, and you'll be able to click the link and actually find some sessions that suit you. Alternatively, if you do work in an RTO, you can organise to participate in their validation meetings, just making sure that you meet the assessment requirements. But if you're not currently working in an RTO and you just work in a workplace, I'd suggest you come to our sessions. What we do is we actually give you the RTO documentation for you to review, and then we discuss that in the validation meeting. So what happens is about a week before the scheduled meeting, you're going to receive an email from the trainer. And this is going to be including RTO documentation, things like an assessment plan, the assessment tools, mapping, maybe a marking guide. There might be a candidate submission, there might be assessor's feedback. And you need to actually prepare for the validation prior to the meeting. So what you should really do is print out the documentation that's been given to you. Get a coloured pen, something red, green, not blue, but something that stands out for you. Now look and see if you find any errors, or whether you check the mapping, see if you can see if there's anything that needs to be changed. Consider any improvements that you could suggest. Write notes for yourself. And then bring these documents to the online session. So it's online. We're using the same technology we're currently using, which is GoToMeeting. And you'll discuss your findings with other participants. So you have your webcam on, the trainer can see you, so they're actually observing you discussing things with the other participants or other students. And our trainer will actually lead that validation. So they'll guide you into different parts of conversation that needs to occur. Now from there, you really should read the the workbook for plan, assessment activities and processes, so 30066A, and then you can complete 30066C/01. What I suggest is choose a unit of competency. You can choose a unit from any qualification at any AQF level. So choose something that you feel familiar with, because you're going to need to be writing questions or tasks. So you need to understand a little bit about the content that you're actually writing for. But you can choose literally any unit of competency from any qualification. Now 30066C/01, so the first portfolio and plan assessment activities, requires you to develop a simple assessment instrument. So it's asking you to develop either a written Q&A, an oral Q&A, or an observation checklist. Now an instrument is a document that is used to actually capture assessment activities. And an instrument is usually like a standalone thing, so it might be an observation checklist or a project or a portfolio or a third-party report. There's lots of different instruments that can be created, but a single instrument does not have to map to the entire unit of competency. So you might say, right, I'm developing a written Q&A, and I want to write a question about performance criteria 1.1, and I can write another question that relates to performance criteria 1.2. And I think there's a question I can create that relates to performance criteria 1.3 and 1.5. And maybe I can put a question that relates to PC performance criteria 2.2. So I can choose parts of the unit that this instrument maps to. What you want to do though is use your unit of competency as a springboard. So you're kind of using that to go, right, the unit is asking the student to know or be able to do X, Y, Z. So what questions or tasks can I ask them to do to actually be able to get that demonstration from the candidate? So don't cut and paste the unit of competency directly, but reword the questions or the information within the unit to guide you into making the questions or the tasks. Now we have a whole heap of assessment instrument templates that are found in the Study Period 3 news forum, and you can actually use those to start building your assessment instrument. Now you can do with those what you like. If you want to change the font, the colors, the way it looks, start building in your questions, add headers and footers, add logos or graphics, whatever you want to do with it. It's just a template. It's kind of like in a workplace situation, you might be given a template and then you need to build on that. Instructional design is very similar. Some RTOs will say, right, we've got these certain templates that you must use, and from there you will start building your actual assessment instrument. Okay, so from there I want you to read the 30067 workbook, and that relates to design and develop assessment tools. This actually builds on what you've learned in plan assessment activities and processes. And from there I want you to complete 30067/01. Now the reason I'm suggesting this is because 30066C/01, so the first portfolio and plan assessment activities, asks you to choose a unit of competency, create an assessment plan, and then create an assessment instrument. Now when it comes to 30067/01, you can actually build on that. So have a look at your assessment plan, and you might have said this particular unit of competency will be assessed in 3 ways. One is a written Q&A, one is a third-party report, and the third is a observation. So if you've developed in 30066C/01 your written Q&A, in 30067/01 you need to build the tool. So you want to include the third-party report and also the, the observation form into that tool. So you want to have multiple instruments within your tool. So what I'm suggesting is that you repurpose your assessment plan and your simple instrument and build on this. You need to create an entire tool that maps to the entire unit of competency. So at the end of the day, when you look at your mapping document and you've got all of the components of the unit of competency, every single component or aspect in that unit should be addressed at least once. So remember, we need to abide by the rules of evidence and the principles of assessment. So there might be times where your third-party report and your written Q&A both address one performance criteria. That's okay. But what we do need to make sure is there are no gaps in that unit at all. And that's why we create multiple assessment instruments. Now, your assessment tool is a document that you create that actually captures the entire assessment activities. So there will be multiple instruments within your assessment tool. And what I'd suggest, or what we could suggest you do, is include a cover page. Like if you're looking at your assessments in TAE, we always have a cover page, and we have the Open Colleges logo, We have the title of the unit of competency. We might state what the assessment actually is. There might be a picture there. There might be a header or footer. There might be information about the RTO course and their ID. So there's different things you can include into a cover page. The next page over, you might include instructions for the candidate and also instructions for your assessor. So from a candidate's perspective, if I'm the candidate, what do I need to know or do in order to do this assessment? Whereas the instructions for the assessor is what does the assessor need to do and know to conduct that assessment. So they're going to be slightly similar but a little bit different. So a candidate's instructions might be something like, you are required to do such and such. Whereas the instructions to the assessor might include something like, the candidate will complete X, Y, Z. You as the assessor are required to blah. You might want to include information about reasonable adjustments or RPL information, and also how competency or judgments can be determined by your tool. From there, you're going to have multiple assessment instruments. So as I said, you might have your written Q&A, the third-party report, and the observation. And at the very last page, put an assessment feedback form. And I've got a template in the news forum that you can put at the back of your Word document. And basically, an assessor will be able to essentially pick up this document at a later stage, complete it with their candidate, and actually make a judgment as to whether competency can be determined. So from there, so you've done 300066C/01 and 300067/01. Okay, so they go hand in hand. Now we're going to go back into plan assessment activities and actually work on 300066C/02. And while I say this, when you're actually submitting the assessments in this study period, stagger them. So purely work on 300066C/01, submit it. Then start building on your 67/01. By then you'll get feedback from the assessor and you can improve your 67/01. Then you can submit that, and while you're waiting for the feedback, start on 300066C/02. So with this one, I want you to choose a unit of competency from a qualification at another AQF level. So for example, if you, for 300066C/01, you decided to use a certificate 2. You might decide, right, I'm going to use a certificate 3 qualification this time around. You're following a similar process again. So you need to develop an assessment plan and design an assessment instrument. But at this is where it changes. We're suggesting something like a portfolio checklist. The particular candidates that you're designing this instrument for are actually undertaking what's called recognition of prior learning, or RPL. And this, once again, an instrument doesn't need to map to everything. We can partially map where needed. Now, when it comes to the portfolio checklist, I'd suggest you have a look at the unit of competency. What does the performance criteria say? What do the skills the performance evidence or the required skills say? What do the critical aspects say? What does it say in the required knowledge or knowledge evidence? Is anything standing out to you to say, right, I'd like to see this type of workplace evidence to meet this unit of competency requirement? So don't cut and paste again, don't cut and paste the unit of competency, but use the unit as a basis to go, okay, this particular unit is asking for something. Well, what workplace evidence could I ask them to actually submit? So choose a different AQF level, and we're designing a portfolio checklist. So you're following the same process, just a different focus. From there, do the same thing again. So go to 300067/02, repurpose your plan, repurpose your instrument, and actually build on that. Okay, so repurpose the plan, repurpose the tool, and build on it. So, for example, you might say for this particular plan, you've got a portfolio checklist. You're going to have a competency conversation, and what else would you like? Maybe this time you say another third-party report. Okay, so in your plan for the 300666C, you only did the portfolio checklist, but this time you actually need to build the other two instruments you've included in that plan and build on your tool. And once again, this tool needs to actually map to the entire unit of competency, so there shouldn't be any gaps in that unit when you're mapping it. Now from there, you've already done 66C/01 and 02, and you've done 300667/01 and 300667/02. One more assessment that needs to be completed, and that's 300667/03. So this time choose a different unit of competency from another qualification. It must be at a different AQF level. So if you've chosen a Cert 2 in the first one and a Cert 3 in the second one, when you get to the third one, maybe you want to choose a Cert 4. Okay, and then you're following the same process again. You're actually developing an assessment tool that maps to an entire unit of competency. This time you get to choose whether you want to have your candidates go down a training and assessment pathway, or whether you want to create another RPL kit. Ideally, you want to try and create different assessment instruments over the three different assessments in 300667/03. And being at different AQF levels, the language is going to change when you're developing your tools anyway. So what you ask of someone who's at a Cert 2 level is going to be very different to someone who's undertaking an advanced diploma. So think about that when you're designing your tools, and make them as fun and visual as you like. These are your tools. So, question and answers. I'm just going to unmute everybody.
Thanks for that, Michelle.
That's okay. How are you, Sam?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. I'm sort of a little bit confused on a couple of things, but
Okay.
that puts a little bit of perspective on it all, because I've just started with, what am I doing, 3006C/01 to start with, so maybe I should go back and do the others first.
Yeah, I'd probably suggest maybe just even read the workbook for 31472, so the validation workbook. The validation meetings are filling up really fast at the moment. So maybe even just go into study period 3, look at the booking calendar and book a date sometime in the future. So then you can go back and once you've read the workbook at least and you've registered for the sessions, then at least you can start with 300666C/01 and then plug away at that until those validations meetings occur. So sometimes, depending on how long you have to wait, and we've dramatically increased the amount of sessions that we've run in the last month or two. They're just like going like wildfire at the moment. It's pretty interesting to watch. So yeah, book in for the session and then you can plug away with 300666C/01.
Yeah, I have done a little bit of work on it, so I might even ask some questions. And I think if it's the same, Kim, I know, who's on there as well, she's probably done the same as well.
Oh.
Yes, I have. I have.
Yeah. So, I mean, can we go through the actual assessment for 3006C/01?
Might just bring it up so we can have a look at it all together.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Rose, and just go grab that.
Oh, sorry, I've come in a bit late.
No, that's okay. No worries.
So we were pretty much just saying then that we should have started at 3006C/01. Is that right?
So
really? On
I was actually suggesting, so the normal, the way you look at study period 3, it looks like start with plan assessment activities, move into design and develop assessment tools, and then move into validation. But what I'm actually suggesting is a slightly different process of, I'll just bring it back up for you to have a look at.
sorry.
No, it's perfectly fine, and then we can go through the assessment for 30066C. So what I'm actually suggesting is to wiggle the study period around a lot. And what I'm finding is the students that have actually followed this process are actually progressing through the study period a lot quicker, and they have a lot more clarity. So what I'm suggesting is have a read of the workbook for validation. It's the 3rd unit in this study period. So read the workbook, do the written Q&A. So the first assessment is short answer questions.
Okay.
And register for an upcoming validation meeting. So we run, you need to participate in 2 different validation meetings. We run them online with students, so it's a simulation. And we actually send you our RTO documentation.
Okay.
So
and it's a requirement to participate in those validation meetings.
Yes. So for participating,
right? Yep.
you actually need to sit in on a meeting. Now, I know a lot of my students don't work in an RTO, so the likelihood of actually sitting on an authentic validation is fairly slim, and that's why we run regular sessions. And that's what you're doing in a classroom anyway. If you were doing the course face to face, well, that's the way I've taught it before anyway. So we started doing scheduled validation meetings. So one of my trainers will run the session. They'll ask you questions, and then you and the other students who are actually participating will talk to each other about what you found in that documentation. You know, there's some good points, there's some bad points. You know, so you need to talk about, you know, what you found and what we could potentially improve. So it's actually, for a lot of students, they go, wow, that was actually really easy to get through, because a lot of it is guided for you.
So how do you register for that? I haven't even seen anything on there saying about validation meeting.
In study period 3, if you have a look on your right-hand side, you'll see a section that says booking form.
No.
Might just go.
I'll just go to it.
Hang on.
Sorry, you bring it up. Cool.
I'm just bringing it up. Okay. No, that's okay. So can you see my study period 3?
No. I can just, yep, now I can. Yep.
Brilliant. Okay, it takes a second usually to flick over. Okay, so it's right on the right-hand side here. Do you see right down the bottom here, it's got guided validation simulations? Yeah.
Oh, yes, yep.
So,
okay, right. So you just click there.
Yep, you just put in your name, your email address, and then you click on what you're wanting. That one. I need to put in stuff there, but it'll tell you what's coming up in the future, and we run them regularly. So that's in the bottom of study period 3 there.
Yep, cool. Thank you very much.
That's all right. As I was saying, they have been booking out really quickly, so it's probably best to at least just register, and then you can leave it out. You don't even have to think about it until you get an email from the trainer. It's usually about a week or so before the session is run, and then you'll do preparation. So it doesn't take too long to prepare. I mean, usually when I get asked to do validations, I can take maybe an hour, maximum maybe 3.5, depending on how, I don't know, attention to detail and brutal I want to be, to actually review the materials and then sit in on the session.
Okay.
So they usually run on a Monday night, but we do have a Friday morning session as well.
Okay.
Okay, so that's participate in validation. So from there, I'm suggesting, as you both are working on now, 30066C/01. So it's the first assessment that you will look at in study period 3. And what I suggest is, once you finish that and you submit it, don't move on to 30066C/02. Okay, park that temporarily necessarily, but moving to the first assessment in design and develop assessment tools, which is 30067/01. And what you're doing is actually repurposing what you've just done in 30066C, and you're building on that. So you're using the same plan, you start using the same instruments, and you're adding some additional stuff. Then you submit it.
Mm-hmm.
From there, then you're moving back into 30066C/02. Choose a different unit from a qualification at a different level than you did in the first one. So you might have chose a unit from a certificate 2. Now you're going to be working on, say, a unit from a certificate 3.
Okay.
So you're designing that plan and that instrument, and then you're doing the same thing again. When you get to the second assessment in design tools, build on what you've just done. Okay. That. And then you've got 30067/03. It's kind of a standalone, but you're doing the same thing again. You're designing an assessment tool at a different AQF level. So you might say, right, this time I'm choosing a qualification at a Cert 4 level and designing that tool. You can choose any unit of competency that you like. It doesn't have to relate to anything you've done in study period 1 or 2. Just make sure it's something that you're aware of. Maybe it aligns to your vocational competency, something that you can draw on your knowledge and skills from.
Mm-hmm.
When we're designing...
Can it be this? Sorry.
That's right. I was just going to say, when it comes to designing tools, like the more knowledge you have about it, the easier it is to actually develop the tools.
Yep. I was going to say, with the 30067 ones, can you, and I know it's got to be a different AQF level, can it be the same unit of competency, though? You can just build on it, did you say?
No, I'd suggest use a different unit of competency.
Different one, yep, okay.
Because it actually states in the critical aspects, the unit you're actually undertaking was originally in a diploma level, so it's a little bit harder, and that's why I'm suggesting to wiggle this study period around a little bit. But it actually requires you to develop different tools at different AQF levels and different units of competency. So you could potentially look at a similar focus. So, for example, you could do a workplace health and safety unit at a Cert 2, a Cert 3, and a Cert 4 level, and choose different instruments that relate to that. But just keep in mind, the language is going to change. The outcomes change when we're talking about different AQF levels. So what we teach and assess at a Cert 2 level is very, very different to what we do at an advanced diploma level. And as we move through, I like to see the AQF a bit like a ladder. You know, so we start at the bottom rung, then we work our way up. As we move up the ladder, things start to get a bit more technical, a bit more difficult. So the assessments need to align to that difficulty level as well.
So, how we're choosing the different units of competency, and what was the other? I don't even know what I'm saying.
AQF level.
Yes.
Yeah. So at the moment for the 30066C01, I've chosen a Cert 3.
Perfect.
So I've kind of chosen already a bit higher.
That's okay.
So I could
go
backwards and go to a 2 and then a 1, or should I then go to a 4 and then a diploma?
Completely up to you. You might decide, right, you're doing a certificate 3 now. The next one you want to do a diploma. The next one you want to do is a Cert 2. You can choose any unit, any qualification. It doesn't matter what AQF level or what unit you choose. Like I said, it doesn't have to relate to anything you've done in study period 1 or 2. It's completely up to you. As long as you can look at the unit and go, I understand it. It relates to my own industry, and I can write something about this. That makes it a lot easier.
Okay.
So that's what I was talking about with the wiggling. I might just grab the first assessment so we can look at 30066C.
That'd be great, thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
So this assessment had a bit of a revamp earlier this year.
Yeah, we weren't able to find anything, were we, Sam?
No.
Anything to do with this one?
What do you mean?
Like anything on the YouTube videos, or they were all
Yeah,
older?
Yeah, they're all a little bit older. I actually
or examples and stuff
sometimes
like that.
sometimes I'm sitting here. We've actually changed the way we do tutorials a little bit. What I used to do is actually go, right, what do you guys want to talk about tonight? And it would be an open-ended conversation. And over the last, say, three months, maybe a bit longer, we've actually started putting actual work, PowerPoints together where we're actually talking about something specific in that study period. Now, we've got a lot of students in study period 1, and there was a lot of confusion as to what we changed in study period 1. So that's why we've done a lot of tutorial sessions around that to give people clarity. But there's days where I'm actually sitting here by myself. We don't always get people in our sessions. So that's why we don't always have, tutorials for you to look at. We're working on that. There's a couple more in study period 3 that Tiffany and I are working on at the moment. So you will see more in the future.
Yeah, that'd be good. I think this is the most confusing of all.
Study period 3, yeah, like I said, at face value, people go, whoa, there's 3 units of competency, there's 8 assessments. What does this mean? But when you think back to study period 1, you were in that course design phase.
Yeah.
Okay, this is actually going back to that phase, and you're kind of saying, right, I've developed my learning program. Okay, now you've developed the training sessions. Now the next part is to actually plan the assessment activities that the trainers and assessors and their candidates, or which were students, are actually going to be undertaking. So you're actually still following the process.
Mm-hmm.
It's just now you're solely focused on assessment. And so what we need to do is in assessment, because we're using training packages, we have to formalize that assessment process. And to determine competency, it's all about collating evidence to actually formalize that judgment. Now, when we actually give somebody a qualification, we need underpinning documentation to prove that person actually was worthy of having that qualification. And assessment tools and completed assessment instruments are actually looked at quite heavily when it comes to ASQA, and they're looking at our audit. They'll be looking at, did that person actually deserve to have that qualification? And there's been a bit of, there's been instances in the past over the last few years where, there's been a lot of media happening with different RTOs doing some not so good things. And there's been students who have been told to give their qualification back to the RTO or back to ASQA because the assessment practice hasn't been sound. So it's something that we have to get right.
Yeah.
So this is why we actually plan an assessment out properly, and we actually undertake a validation to actually evaluate it and have multiple people say that this actually meets the unit of competency. Like the assessment tool we're about to look at, so 30066C/01 and 02, they had a bit of a revamp early this year, but they were actually validated by another RTO. So we actually got feedback from another industry stakeholder to go, does this make sense? Does this align? Just because TAE is a bit more high risk than other qualifications. Anyway, so let's have a look at this particular assessment. Okay, so basically for this one, you're developing an assessment plan for people who are actually going to be undertaking a training and assessment pathway. What that means is your candidates have actually undertaken training and now they're undertaking assessment. There's actually 2 different pathways that a student can undertake in order to be determined competent. One is that they do the training and then the assessment with the RTO, or the other way is that they just undertake assessment. Either way is fine. We just need to make a judgment on that. So these people have taken training and now they're being assessed. And what you're actually needing to design is a simple instrument. So it needs to relate to some of the unit, doesn't have to be the entire unit. And we're developing either a written questioning instrument or an oral questioning instrument or an observation instrument. So you've got a choice there of 3 different instruments.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing is,
And with,
sorry, you go.
I was going to say, like with the questioning instrument,
Yes.
so we can look at the, I'm just trying to think what it was, the performance criteria and say, okay, well, if it says you've got to do X, Y, Z, we can get a question around that saying, well, what is X, Y, Z, or something like that?
Or what steps are involved in X, Y, Z, or
yeah.
There's so many questions you can ask. Or you might 2 performance criteria and go, I can actually merge those 2 things together to get a really good question that maps to both of those performance criteria. There's so many ways that we can do it. I think the thing to also remember, especially if you're looking at questioning, is open questions. Avoid closed questions. You don't want them just to say yes or no. What you're wanting to actually draw out of them is, so what's this mean? When would this occur? How would you explain? Outline
or list something, or
yeah. So you're actually wanting them to specify something that they know.
Okay.
Like
sorry.
That's all right. I was just going to say, questioning's all about knowledge. So what do they know?
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of started my assessment tool 1, and I've written I've chosen the unit provide reception services for an animal care facility.
Okay.
And then for the oral questioning, I've got the first question, list 5 different procedures and the costs associated with them that are performed at your clinic.
Okay.
And then as a key, pardon?
I was going to say, so the thing with that, you've actually got a double barrel question there. So the first thing I pick up is list 5 procedures.
Okay.
Okay. So the second part of that is what's the cost?
Yeah.
So what you could potentially do is make that into a table and go list 5 procedures. So you might say question 1, complete this table. So the first column is list 5 procedures, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the second column might say, what is the cost for these procedures?
Okay.
The thing with double barrel questions is students pick up on the first part, they don't read everything in its entirety. So chances are someone's going to fill it out and say, right, you're going to have neutering, you're going to have an injection, or, whatever the procedures are, but they're going to miss the cost.
Yeah. So I was going to use that as an oral question, though, like if I was an assessor assessing them in a workplace and I said, okay, so what are 5 different procedures you would do here? And they say, say castrate, nail trim, a bath, anal gland, say, and yeah, lovely, and a dental. And then they say, and I go, well, how much does it cost to have the nail trim done?
Yeah,
well, it's $20.
So there's 2 different questions there. That's perfect.
Yeah, that's how I was, and then I was, as the assessor, going to write my response.
Yep, brilliant.
And then I also had in the one so this is probably 2 assessments I've got it as, because I've used that as an oral questioning, and then I've got practical observation. So the question is, show me the steps involved in scheduling an appointment.
Okay, so for the purposes of this assessment, you only need to do 1. So you choose either to do the oral questioning or the observation.
Okay.
But don't delete what you've already done, because when we get back into 6.7/01, that's where you'll design the extra instrument. So you'll design that observation and the oral questioning and whatever else is in your assessment plan.
Okay.
But those questions we ask,
yes,
they've got to be linked to the performance criteria. Is that correct?
Any aspect of the unit. So it could be the performance criteria, the required skills and knowledge, or the critical aspect.
Okay.
Or if you're using a new unit, it would be the performance criteria, the performance evidence, the knowledge evidence, and the foundation skills.
Okay.
So it could be any part of the unit. It doesn't necessarily have to be the performance criteria, but that is a good point.
Because on there it says for, say it says task 6, for your developed assessment instrument created in task 5, you're required to conduct a mapping exercise.
Yes.
So then in the mapping exercise, Appendix 3 I've chosen, which is old training package structure, and it actually says the element performance criteria and then tick where it's mapped. So I suppose, is that where you're coming from, Sam? To say
cut and paste everything to the template, but you only need to know what is mapped. So if performance criteria 1.1 is mapped, tick it. If 1.0 not, don't tick it. If performance criteria 1.3 is mapped, tick it.
Right. Okay.
So only tick mapped, but for your mapping document, you have to put everything, all the components into that template. You only just need to map what has actually been addressed there.
I think that's why I've put so much into it, because I'm trying to make the assessment relate to every single performance criteria and element in there. And where it says tick where it's mapped, I've written for, say, 1.1 in oral questioning, it's mapped at question 1 in the oral questioning part.
And that's
so I just need that.
The next, when you look at 30067, there'll be multiple columns there. And you might say assessment 1 is the oral questioning, the assessment 2 is the written questioning or the observation or whatever you want to put there. And that's where you start mapping each assessment a little bit more explicitly. Like if I go back into study period 3 and I go into the news forum, I'll just show you the difference. Okay, I've got an example of a mapping document here. I can't remember what this unit is. It's been so long. Okay, so this is show leadership. Now, do you see the 3 columns? Does that come up for you guys?
Not yet. Here we go.
Okay. So this particular mapping document actually has the 3 assessment instruments. So we've got a portfolio, an interview, and a case study. And we've actually mapped where it goes. But for the purposes of your instrument, we're just doing an easy mapping exercise. We're just asking you to tick it. So you don't have to go into the granular detail of this particular mapping document. But when you get into 30067, this is what we're more looking for.
Okay, that's where I was getting a little bit confused, because I'm thinking, okay, well, performance criteria 1.1, that's in assessment tool 1 and assessment tool 3 or something like that, but I don't need to do that. I just need to tick it to say that it's
what you've done.
That's what I did too, and that was
done. And then just choose one. Either do the questioning, the oral questioning, or the observation for this particular assessment. Cut and paste the entire unit into this mapping document, and then just tick where that instrument actually maps to. So it doesn't have to map everything. It's only as many performance criteria or aspects that you want.
well, that feels much better, because mine was going to be 12 pages long.
No. So keep in mind, it actually says in this unit you only need to develop a simple instrument. So 5 or 10 questions is fine.
Okay. But when you go over to, we can do the quiz, but when we go into the assessment plan and it goes under assessment task, you still just want us to say, well, we can do a work.
Yep. So
sorry, I cut out then.
That's right. So in your assessment plan, you'll actually say there's going to be multiple instruments that you're going to be developing. But for this assessment, you only need to develop one of those instruments. And in this case, we've asked you to develop either the oral Q&A, the written Q&A, or an observation.
Yep. Okay. That's what I was sort of probably thinking ahead, thinking, okay, I need to do this mapping because I'm doing a wound workbook or wound assessment, a quiz. So I'm just going to do some questions with a quiz for my...
and that's why I'm saying build on it. So when you look at 6701, you've already got your plan. You've already said these are the methods or instruments you're going to be using. So create
Mm.
additional instruments, make a new tool, and then that's your assessment.
Okay.
Okay.
So there
I
is
think I look in.
method in my madness.
Fair enough.
Okay.
I'm just trying to think of any other questions. I mean, there's probably a few, but I'm just trying to go through what I've filled in to what I haven't filled in.
Sure.
So,
That's what I was mainly worried about. Yeah, I thought we had to like say something about if we chose whatever unit of competency,
Yeah.
then we had to relate every single performance criteria to that assessment.
Not for this assessment, but when you move into the 6-7, that's when you do.
okay.
But each instrument on its own won't map to the entire unit. You might say,
Is that why you... Sorry, yep.
it's okay, no, you ask a question.
I was just going to say, is that why you say do 6-7 first? Because then you go back to this one and it's only half of what you've done at the start.
Yeah, so you
Really?
start with 6-6/01 and then build on that for 6-7 and then move back into 6-6C/02 and then build on that in 6-7/02.
Mm-hmm. And it seems like when you look at it, but I'm just trying to think where it is now. Just like for when you go through some of it, it says your candidate group, your target team,
Yes.
and then your target group to be assessed. Are they supposed to be the same?
Yeah. So
when you're looking at Appendix 2?
When the thing is, your scoping plan is your kind of initial. If you think back to study period 1, you kind of went hit training needs analysis, then you did a bit of a scope or a recommendation, and then you actually developed your plan. This is following the same thing. So you're kind of going, scoping plan is kind of, these are my initial thoughts.
Okay.
Whereas your assessment plan is the actual assessment plan. So you're going to find there's going to be commonalities in a couple of the appendices. So cut and paste those commonalities in. TAEs, crossing your T's, dotting your I's. So you want to have consistency across it. So where you say candidate group or target team, put the same thing for every appendix because it's the same information.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, yep.
Give it like these are separate documents. In a workplace, you'd probably fill out, Appendix 1, on Monday, but Appendix 2 you might not get till Friday, but they're two different documents.
Okay.
You have to fill out, the same information.
Yep.
Right.
Just trying to think.
Yeah, I'm trying to have a look at mine too. See what else. What about this screenshot thing? I can't do a screenshot on my computer. I've Googled it. I don't know how to do it.
Do you have a PC or a Mac?
I don't know. It's just
like your computer.
It says
what kind of computer do you have?
It says ViewSonic on the screen.
Okay.
And then it says Logitech on the...
Okay, so it's a normal PC.
Yeah, you don't have an Apple Mac.
No, you don't have an Apple.
No, I'm not that fancy.
Okay. So there's going to be a few different ways if you might just quickly Google, hang on, print screen.
Can I just screenshot it on my phone?
You can, but it's actually, once you know how to print screen, you'll be doing it all the time. Here we go.
Okay.
So there's actually a few ways to take a screenshot.
Because it says print screen on my keyboard, and I pressed that, and it said it saved it to my clipboard, and I don't have a clipboard on my computer.
Mine saves it to my desktop, so...
Okay, so if it saved it to your clipboard, if you put it into a Word...
That's what it said on Google,
it's
but I don't...
temporarily. So what you can actually do is, if you opened up a Word document or, wanted to add it into your work assessment, print an area, press an area on your Word document and then press the Control V button. So you want to paste it. It's already recorded and it's going to bring it up for you.
If I just go print screen now and then
open up,
I'll go new Word document, and then what do I press? Control V.
Yep.
Oh my goodness.
You're right.
Okay.
Woohoo!
I can do it.
So
Thank you.
that's right. There's actually a few different ways to do a print screen. It just depends on, like, if you do a Google search, it's actually going to show you a few different ways to do it. I think this one is the one I was looking for. Yep, so print screen, and then you can press Control V. Other than that, it actually tells you how to do it. There's also some computers have a snipping tool. So if you have a look at the search function in your PC and you look for snipping tool and press it, you can do a highlight on the screen. If it's a Mac, Shift Command 4 brings it up. There's different ways that you can do a print screen. But now you've got it, that ability, you'll probably use it quite a lot.
That's cool. Thank you very much.
That's okay. Now,
I was like, how do I do this?
Now, keep in mind with this one, you're just typing the email. So go into your email account, put in your manager's name, put in the subject, write your email, attach the plan. I think that's what you need to do. Yes. And then just print screen it. Just do a screenshot of what you see on the screen. So you don't actually have to send the email to anybody. Literally just...
You have to have an email address.
Well, you do need...
You have to type an email address in there.
Yeah, so if you might just say, or you might just say, once you've actually, like Outlook has someone's name, they don't always have the address. So you might say Michelle.Christie or just Michelle Christie in the send area, and then your subject and that kind of thing.
Okay, cool. Yep. Well, now I can do that. I was just like, I can't even do screens. Thank you.
I find print screens, like, I use it a lot when I'm studying online. You know, there's something I see when I'm, reading something online, and I might just do a print screen of it and save it into my study document, like in a folder. So then I can go back.
I just usually copy and paste.
You can do that too, but I mean, a print screen's so quick, that you can, especially in Sam's case, she said that she can save it as a document already. So it's easy just to go print screen, save as, whatever you want to call it, and then you can bring it up. It's a picture, and you can go, what was I actually referring to there? Ah, that's right, that particular paragraph. Great.
Yeah,
I use it a lot.
Yeah, I probably will use it.
Yeah,
thank you.
That's okay.
Can I just go back to, I know I'm jumping around, back to Appendix 2 of the assessment plan. Okay, I know to cut. So when we come up to assessment tasks. Okay, so do we just write where it says assessment and says assessment instrument 1, AT1, do we delete that and just say workbook or quiz, or do we just leave it like that?
So keep in mind, a workbook is learning your assessment, so you want to add those assessment instruments. So leave where it says AT1, 2, 3, because that's actually telling you how many instruments you've got.
Okay.
What you're wanting to write in that brief. So you might say assessment activity 1 is the oral Q&A. Assessment instrument 2 is the observation.
Right. And then when we go down to the next section, the method of assessment, that's where we write, then it's a quiz or an exam or...
Exactly.
Yep, okay. Or a work, yep, okay.
Method of assessment, oh yeah. So that's where you write like oral questioning as well.
Well, keep in mind, the method of assessment is questioning. The instrument you've chosen is oral questioning.
Okay, yep.
Whereas you might say demonstration, it's an observation or it's a role play. There's different instruments that can be used in a method. So you're just specifying what that actually is.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I had that wrong too. I just wrote what it was called. I was like, well, it's reception duties.
I mean, assessment methods, assessment tools, and assessment instruments confuse the heck out of a lot of people.
Yeah, they seem the same.
Yeah.
But the way I like to see it is the tool, that's the actual document you're using to conduct the actual assessment activities. The method is the way that we're actually conducting the actual assessment, whereas the instrument is the type of method. So it's the actual tangible document. No, that's not the right way to put it.
So it's a bit more specific, isn't it? The instrument you've got to, yeah.
The instrument's actually, like if you looked at this tool, you have a portfolio and you've got a questioning instrument together in one tool.
Right.
Okay, because if you look at part A, portfolio tasks, whereas when you go down to part B, you've got short answer questions. So this is a tool, but if we looked at portfolio tasks on itself, that's an instrument. If we looked at the short answer questions, that's an instrument. We've just put it all together into one tool.
Okay. Yeah. I think I get that. Yeah. So if one of my assessment instruments was a wound assessment, like I'm assessing them on their, oh no, they're going to be assessing a wound, that's an observation, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Because the assessor will observe them conducting the task, and the task is to assess a wound.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Make sure I get it right.
Yeah. All right. What else? I'm trying to look at mine. What else I've written in there? Where have I put it? I've got about 25 documents open here.
I know my study is scattered. Reasonable adjustments. You want us to think about how we could adjust it if we had to, or you want us to definitely put something in there anyway?
Look, I mean, when it comes to if you've got a particular candidate that has an LLN or a disability that needs to be addressed, then you'd need to add that. But if you are developing an assessment for a generic cohort, like if you think about everyone at open colleges who undertakes TA comes from a different background, comes from different workplaces, that's a generic cohort. So if I was developing this assessment tool or this assessment plan for everyone in this course, I might just put a blanket statement, something like reasonable adjustments will be looked at on a case-by-case basis. It's kind of difficult to say what treatments we could actually apply because no two people are the same. Like if I've got two particular students with dyslexia, what works for one isn't necessarily going to work for the other. So that's why we, in our case, we actually have a conversation with students to find out, well, how can we, what is your actual issue and how can we get around that? And we will work with the student to actually develop a reasonable adjustment.
Okay. All right. What else was I going to ask? I'll keep flicking over.
So we're back to that selected assessment methods and instruments.
Yep.
I'd written there practical observation, and then I'd also written under it oral assessment and third-party report. That's all what I was going to use for assessment 1. But that doesn't make sense, does it?
So
because I only need one. I don't need 3 different methods.
Sorry,
is that correct?
Yes, hang on, just one sec. Are we looking at Appendix 1 or 2?
I'm not sure now. Appendix 2.
Okay. So you're talking about here, the selected assessment method.
Sorry, I can't. Just where we were before.
Yep, I'm back.
Under select assessment methods and instruments.
Yes.
That one.
Yeah, sorry. So I just need to choose one for those.
You just need to
choose one for those.
No, for your plan. For your plan.
No, sorry. Yeah.
You need to include multiple instruments and methods.
Yeah, but where it says like assessment instrument 1, where it says method of assessment, I
Yes.
don't need to choose a portfolio, a third-party
No,
report, and an observation check. I just choose one
you choose
for
one
each.
for each.
Yes,
So assessment
yes, yes.
one might be your portfolio, assessment two instrument might be your observation, and assessment three might be that third party report.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that's okay.
What else did I have? Oh, also when we go up where it says units of competency,
Yep.
if you go, am I just choosing the unit of competency that I'm basing this assessment on?
Yes. Now,
Or do I choose the whole unit, like the whole qualification, sorry?
no. An assessment plan
Yeah.
is based on whatever you're actually assessing. Now, keep in mind, some RTOs will cluster units together. So sometimes when we've got a plan, we might say, for example, you've got, just trying to think, there might be something like welfare of animals and feeding might go together. So we put likes with likes, if that makes sense, together. For the purposes of your assessment, you only need to do one, but there have been students, especially those who are working in an RTO, who have already developed instruments and tools before, and they are using clustered. So that's why we put units as an option. But for the purposes of this assessment, you only need to do one unit.
Yeah, because that's where it was a bit confusing because I've included all of them. I just made like a table, but
No,
I'm only choosing
just choose
the
one.
one unit, provide reception services, but then it says, what's the qualification? Well, there is no qualification if you do it alone.
But you
Or
can't
do we write statement of attainment?
do an attainment
Pardon?
specific qualification.
Pardon?
It's you don't actually when you deliver one unit of competency on its own, it needs to be a statement of attainment. It needs to, so when you get a certificate, it would say Kim has attained a statement of attainment in, say, Cert 4 in vet nursing, and the unit includes this unit.
Oh, okay.
We
So
don't,
that where it says the qualification, I would write statement of attainment in reception services
yeah,
or certificate to
and
animal studies. Is that right?
yeah, you need to say what qualification it belongs to. So, for example,
Okay.
I'm going to go to training.gov.
Yeah,
Right.
because I did that for my first assessment in study period 1. I didn't do a whole thing. I ended up doing just one unit of competency, and the qualification was like HTL, blah, 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 Diploma of Nursing, and then in brackets was the statement of attainment.
Right.
So you might
And
say
it came from the health training package, but yeah.
yeah. So you might say the unit you're playing with is ACM GAS 207A, provide reception services for an animal care facility, and you might choose it to belong to the certificate 3 in pet grooming.
Okay. Yeah, because it says that they provide reception services for an animal care facility. So if you click on that,
Yeah.
then it should come up with 3 different ones, shouldn't it?
Yeah.
Because I think
When we
there's
go into
quite a
the
few
unit
in it.
competency,
So it doesn't matter. I just say that the. So what do I write all of those in?
no, choose one.
Just any. It doesn't matter. Okay.
So what you choose,
Because
and this is why I'm saying you need to do things at different AQF levels. So you might decide you want to do this particular assessment at a Cert 3 level. So that the next unit you choose might be at a Cert 2 level. So you might choose the Cert 2 in animal studies, and that third assessment you do might be Cert 4 in vet nursing. So you're using 3 different AQF levels.
Yeah. Okay. Got you. Thank you.
That's okay.
Yeah, because I was like, it's not really a qualification, so I just said what qualification it was included in, but now I understand it's statement of attainment. Okay.
Yeah. So units of competency aren't ever trained on their own. They have to come from somewhere. So at the end of the day, your certificate will either say you've got a full qualification, you've got a statement of attainment so you're getting a partial completion, if that makes sense, from a qualification, and that might be one or more units of competency, or you can get a certificate for a skill set.
Yeah.
So the certificates will look a little bit different depending on what someone's enrolled into.
Okay. Okay, that makes a bit more sense. Here I am, like, writing all this stuff on there, and I didn't need to write any of it.
No?
Like, I'm adding all of this. I think that's what I do. I try to, when I don't understand it properly, I just put way too much crap in there.
Sure. So if you're not sure
And then
about
make
something, always send us a message and just say, I'm going down this path. Does this seem right? And we'll always
I'm just not very good with messages. Like, I can't really express what I mean by writing it. I'd rather talk to someone. Does that make it? That's why I find these webinars really good.
I mean,
because I'm not very
stab.
Yeah.
I mean, we can kind of read through the lines sometimes. Students aren't always clear in what they are asking, but sometimes I go, I think you're asking this, and I'll say, I think you're asking this, and here's your answer. If I'm wrong, let me know, and we can start that conversation. So it's always good to ask. It's better to get clarity than to do unnecessary work.
Okay. No worries.
We try and
Can we?
mind.
Go on, sorry.
Pardon?
I was just saying,
Sorry, cut out then.
we try and be streamlined where possible. So, sometimes students overthink it and think they need to add a whole heap of stuff when, sometimes it's, minimal work that we actually need in certain templates.
Yeah.
So if we can go back to the assessments, go to question 7 of what we've got to do. If you're finished with that, sorry.
No, that's fine. So
Yeah.
7 or
Yeah.
part B.
No, not that part of it. Under the instructions, what we have to do.
Okay, so
test the assessment, the draft assessment. Yeah.
So once you've developed your instrument, print it out. Ask somebody, could be a family member or a friend, and go, I'm just wanting to test this with you. So you're going to act as the assessor, and your friend or family member or someone you know is going to act as the candidate. You're actually going to test it and make sure it works. So you might have an oral questioning tool, and you say, I'm going to ask you the following 10 questions. Can you answer this for me? And so you might say, question 1 is this. And the person might say, this is the answer. And you'd fill out the form as if you're the actual assessor.
Okay.
As you're testing it, you might go, actually, that question didn't actually flow properly, or I could amend it and improve it this way. So it's always good to test things first to actually see if they work.
That's what I was thinking, that, if I had a quiz or something and then they sort of said, well, maybe that question could have been phrased this way. So you want that sort of information.
Yeah. Or you might say there's a grammatical error, or question 2 should be question 3 and question 3 should be question 2.
Okay.
Or you've got a double barrel question in question 1, so split that into 2, or add a table and make that, a little bit easier for students to complete. There's so much
question I had.
you can get.
Pardon?
I was just saying there's a lot of different feedback you can get from people. So it's always good to test it.
So does that need to be like printed out, written on and scanned back in, or can we just type it in?
No, I'd suggest to handwrite it. I mean, you can, it's probably best to handwrite it.
Yeah. Because I did that with the last one. The scanner wasn't working, so I had to then type it in to the document as the last one. So it kind of looked like it was just written there, but I had had someone observing the video, but I had no, couldn't use the scanner.
Some students have taken, like you suggested before about taking photos with your phone and then putting that into the document. That can work as well.
Yeah. Okay. But yeah, I'll do that. Like, it's working now. It's okay, but before it wasn't. And I just did that. That's why I was just wondering if that was okay or not. But yeah, I'll do that. Sounds good.
Okay. Just trying to think what else. That's a lot of information, but it's made it a lot clearer anyway.
Good.
Yeah, I was thinking, as you said, I think I was overthinking it, thinking I've got to put this in and saying that's 1.1 and that's 2.4 and blah, blah, blah. But
that's what I think too, Sam.
It's all right. We've both listened, Kim. We can talk about this anyway because we're both study buddies, so it's really helpful.
Yeah. Oh, that's good that you guys study together. It's great.
Yeah. No, it's been really good bouncing off somebody.
Yeah, I agree. I encourage everyone to have study buddies. Even if it's just, I don't understand this, do you think, or, hey, I learnt this today, do you want to talk about it?
Yeah.
The more I talk to someone about what I've learnt, the more it cements in my brain.
And I'll remember things that Kim won't and vice versa, I'm sure.
Yeah. Different perceptions.
The other thing is with that assessment plan, it says workplace if in partnership. Can I just write NA because the workplace isn't in partnership?
Yeah, just
or do I have to? Pardon?
Just leave it blank.
Okay.
What that means?
Does it make it? Yeah, sorry, you go.
What it means is, let's say the vet hospital had a partnership with the RTO, that they were actually conducting the training and assessment on behalf of the RTO, and the RTO was issuing the statement of attainment or the qualification at the end of the day. That's when you'd fill that out. But if you're just doing an RTO, don't worry about the workplace because if it's not in partnership, it doesn't need to be filled out.
Okay. And what about the industry specialist if required?
That would only be if you had a specific need. So, for example, if you've got a lot of students with language literacy and numeracy issues, you might get an LLN specialist to assist.
What if I just had one student with dyslexia, say, that needed a reader-writer? Would I write that in there? Yeah,
you might say, you have to have a tutor or something like that to help, or, it might be an interpreter. It just depends on the actual issue.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's required, so if you don't need one, don't add it in.
Yeah, well, I just thought every time it says any issues, I always say no.
Sure.
So I thought I should probably say, well, this person's got dyslexia, so that I can say, well, this is what I would do for them.
And that's okay.
Excuse me. And timeline for assessment, you can just choose whatever you like. So like a month again, same as previous.
However long you think it might take them to complete it.
Oh, so like an hour more like.
Well, you'd probably say like how long does it actually take for them? If it took an hour, you'd probably have issues. But it's just the assessment overall. So you might say week 1,
like
doing the oral Q&A. Then they've got to do a portfolio for 2 weeks, and then you're coming back or you might call them on the 4th week and do an oral Q&A with them. So
okay, so the whole caboodle, not just the assessment itself.
No.
Okay.
Oh, right, so the whole unit of competence.
Yeah, how long is that going to take to assess? So even though you're developing an instrument for one, the plan is for the entire unit.
Okay, so I'm doing the same one as I did in study period 1, so I can go back and check what I wrote there.
Exactly. Repurpose stuff if you can.
Cool.
But if you don't want to, you don't have to.
No, that's fair enough.
This is the beauty about TAE. Every student's so different. It has different vocational competency. So the assessments that we get in differ on so dramatically every single day. So we have a lot of flexibility that other qualifications don't have.
Mm-hmm. And it says units are contextualised. I mean, I contextualised it last time myself, so I would say no, because it's not, obviously. Is that correct? Or
if you're developing the assessment for a specific client, you might contextualise. So, for example, we did a lot of client work in a previous RTO that I worked in, and so the assessments, we'd actually use their logos, or the client's logos, their terminology. We'd be putting questions that relate to their workplace. And if you picked up one client's tool against another tool, they would look very different, even though it's the same unit of competency. If you're developing for a generic cohort, though, essentially it's not contextualized because you can't contextualize, 50 million different workplaces, so you keep it very generic. So it just depends on the situation you're developing.
Okay, yep, no worries. Mm-hmm. Okay.
That's probably going to be no then.
Yeah, I mean, like last time when there was only a couple of things that I contextualised anyway, they said person, whereas I said patient. So, yeah, but everybody knows a person is a patient when it comes to a hospital, but we had to contextualise last time. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, in a human hospital, I should say.
Well, they're patients at a vet too.
Well, that's exactly right, but that's what I meant, yeah.
Yeah. No, I was just thinking, no, actually they are patients.
Yeah,
or animals.
Well, they are patients in a vet thing, but yeah.
Different workplaces, different terminology. It's quite fun.
Yeah.
Sorry, we're just trying to think of what else we need to know.
We're keeping you bowed up.
I can't even find where it says contextualize.
Hang on.
It's on the first page of just where we are now, a little bit further down. Is it? Yeah.
Okay.
So scoping assessment 1, Appendix 1 assessment scoping plan is asking, is this contextualised, yes or no? So it's just a tick box. You don't have to specify what you're contextualising in any way.
Okay. I'll change that to no.
And again, with the assessment plan Appendix 2, it's just a tick box, yes or no.
Yeah. So we don't really need to elaborate too much on that.
Definitely not.
And then with the people to be informed, you can just obviously candidates, assessors, whatever, throughout whoever should be involved, other educators if it's in their workplace or whatever.
Yep. So supervisor, you might have specialist staff, the training manager might need to know.
Yep.
Usually there'll be a very intimate relationship between the assessor, the candidate, and the supervisor of the student. So they will be in direct contact with each other quite regularly, especially if they're doing a full qualification. So you might, as an assessor, call the supervisor and say, right, next week I've got a scheduled meeting with Janie. I'm just checking, am I right to come in on Tuesday at 10:30? I'm going to be there for an hour. And they'll say, yep, and I'll go, great, I need to speak to Janie, or I'll send Janie an email and just say, as per, previously arranged, I'm coming next Tuesday at 10:30. I'll see you in your workplace, looking forward to seeing you, or whatever you want to say. So there'll be a conversation usually between those three stakeholders regularly, but then the assessor might speak to their manager, or they might speak to specialist staff, or they might speak to other assessors who are helping to assess that full qualification. It just depends. Every program is so different.
It also says there, could this assessment be clustered? So I've ticked yes.
Okay.
Now, do I need to say what units of competency could be included to cluster it, or just yes? That's it.
Well, it's saying,
It
That
says
makes sense.
specify. It says specify. Yeah.
fine. So what units would you put together? Now, keep in mind when we cluster, we want to put likes with likes. So if you've got 2 units of competency and performance criteria 1 in the first unit is very similar to performance criteria, or sorry, no, I should say element 1, sorry, in the first unit is similar to element 2 in the second unit, you might cluster them together so that you don't have to do the same thing twice, if that makes sense. So we're putting likes to likes. You wouldn't put dramatically different units together.
I've just got, like, for example, I said organise workplace information that relates to reception services.
Okay.
And participate in workplace communications that relates to reception services.
Okay. That would work.
And yeah, and contribute to team effectiveness also relates to, can be taught together with reception services.
Yep, that would work.
Okay, cool.
I mean, we can cluster multiple units together. I think it gets a bit tricky when we do 4 or more. Like 2, maybe 3 is a good, nice little cluster.
Yeah, I've just got the 3.
Yep. But keep in mind, you only need to develop the assessment plan and the instrument just for your chosen reception skills unit.
Yep.
Cool.
All right, I think I'm pretty good for the minute.
Cool.
Yeah, same here. I think that's fine.
Great. If you think of anything else in the next few weeks, send me a message or just a message, either one of us, or even Tiff. Tiff will help you too, to give you a bit of clarity in what you're after. And, you might think, oh, I don't think, I'm articulating what you are trying to get across. That's okay. We can read through the lines, or we can try and draw more out of you and start that conversation. So I'd much rather you get clarity from us than kind of do things on your own and then find out later on that you've done the wrong thing.
No, fair enough.
Reach out to us as much as you need to.
Okay. Well, that's been very, very helpful. Thank you very much for your help.
No worries. Well,
it's been great.
This has been recorded, so I'll get this uploaded into YouTube. So if you do want to go back and listen to, or watch anything from tonight's session, you can. As I said, Tiff and I are working on some more stuff for study period 3 at the moment, so you might see some other additional videos uploaded fairly shortly.
That'd be great.
Cool.
Thanks.
Great. And don't forget to register for your validation meetings.
Yes, I have to read it and then do that, definitely. Thank you.
That's all right.
Yeah, thanks for that. Alrighty.
All right.
I'll talk to you later then. Thanks for that.
You're welcome. Have a good night.
You too.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.